of April 2019, during the AVMOAN Saturday service, the man of God, Prophet Emmanuel D. gave a word of prophecy regarding xenophobia attacks in South Africa. Let us watch the prophecy and reports from several news agencies that confirms the prophecy. May this video prompt you to pray for peace to reign in South Africa.
How is on say? Tikale muno. Anandipasa kuti tigawane kozituzina. Tikwena kandi chidwi pakena kali konse kamene kakuchitika pale na kuita misophonations. Chifukwa kupanga ndi Mulungu mwini. Osati ndizopangana. Sizapanganizo. Ndatokoza anandipasa uthenga onena kuti tipempherere lolo. Mulungu anakamba nthawi ina za South Africa. Makumbukira? Anakamba kapangangapo kuti kuchitika xenophobia. Ndiye panopo koma Mulungu akunena kuti izi zikubwera izi zikhoza kuononga miyoyo yambiri. Tipemphere. Kukuoneka kuchitika zinthu zimene zikhoza kuononga miyoyo yambiri. South Africa. Tipemphere. Anyamanina kuti wauze ana ako amene ali ndi ana awo pamene mukupembezera chapembezere mwamphamvu. Nthawi zina umapemphera Mulungu nyezu ya akungonena basi. Akungonena iwe sikuziona amene zikuendera. Ziko sulikona amene lilili. Akungonena chito atituma Mulungu ndi akuzimu tikuyankhula chimene mfumu wa Mulungu kunena. Alika ndi Mulungu akuyankhula wina atayima potera atavala macheke 21 atavala ya 25 billion chimene akambe chibwera pakamwa pake chimene makamba Mulungu chimakwaniritsidwa. Baba langa limanduza choncho. Ngati watiitana adi ngati waitana adi neneri zaka zino mbale uno. Ngati ndizoona anthu afika pozula kuti ndizoona anthu awa waitana ndani awa? Ambesese watu. Siti kukhazikisa chinthu. Tikuwauza anthu chimene chifuna kutani? Osayankhula kusayankhula chinthucho chiliko chifuna chitali kwani? Ndiye Mulungu akuti tawauza ananga chitepo kanthu pakhale kusintha ndi chimene tabwera ifeyo. Tikwena kwauza wanthu. Wina zigaza mola kuika tikwena kwauza wanthu. South Africa tipembezere South Africa kubukaso zosakhala bwino ayi. So myoyo yambiri so ikoza kuluzika. Ndiye wakuitana iwe wandiitana iwe. Usiye zimene mangugaza kuti ine ndabwerera ntenda, ndabwerera banja, ndabwerera business, ndabwerera nsana wanga iyi ali ku South Africa waja salamba alithandiza kwa ine zake zimene zozo. Tambesera uliko kuti uthandize wina aliko kuti akuthandize iweyo. Uchitepo kanthu lero. Ngati sukwanisa kuthandiza wina Mulungu sakuthandizaso iweyo. Sakuthandizaso iweyo. Ndipo satira ndi mwezi wathu umene so zinali oye ngati mamba ndi apa kuso zikubweraso koma zikhala zonene perapo kusiyana ndi kaimira tikwena kupembezera za chimenechi South Africa. Mulungu awathandize mgwirizano bata upezeke adziwe chikuchitika ndi chani ku dziko lapansi ili. Chikuchitika ndi chani ku dziko lapansi ili. Azisogolera mayiko ngati akutenga kuti ndi nthawi yakalekale imene amangokhala pamalo kumangopanga zimene akufuna nthawi yake si inoyo afune asafune antathamangira kwa Mulungu. Upembezere kuti Ambuye mulowerere nyengo ya South Africa. Ameni. Ambuye ngati so mufuna mulowerere nyengo ya dziko lonse lapansi. Kwa chimene Mulungu sangafune kusintha iwe sungasinthe. Haleluya. Ndikhulupirira ndikuona papa ukupembezera mwamphamvu. Tatiye tikalengeze moto. Atate uchina baba ndima Yesu Kristo Yehova tukupempera baba tantawe wani mbele buli nawe pale na usiku mtopole songi mbele baba kwa kusita nyemo mbele baba kwa kwanza baba babu ngaso baba zina mbele baba kuzikita biro bana alu mbele baba alu sonyo baba tukulengeza moto wako wa kuikabata moto wa kuikabata penda pale posho hapo tukulengeza bata 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 penda pale posho penda pale posho baba tukulengeza bata zina Yesu Kristo Yesu. Amen.
No, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm scared too much. They burned the shop on Sunday. Then in the afternoon again, they went upstairs again and put it on. Put another fire again. To see how heartless somebody is. You burn this place, it's not enough for you. You still go back again. Show me the love. Tell me how does love and goes in there. There's no brotherly whole love there. We are all one Africa.
We are tired of being beaten every day. We are all Africa. Why must we be afraid to go to South Africa? Which South Africa has ever been beaten in Zambia? Which one? We want the ambassador to address us. We are tired. Enough!
I am not in support of violence, but Nigerians are the most accommodating people in Africa. For them to have reacted at this time, they seem to have been pushed to the wall.
People have lost their lives, and many have been injured. Families have been traumatized. Livelihoods have been destroyed. No amount of anger and frustration and grievance can justify such acts of wanton destruction and criminality.
Hello, I'm Hazem Seeker. Welcome to the program. South Africa is once again dealing with a level of violence that shocked many inside the country and abroad. There have been days of looting and attacks, mostly targeting foreign-owned businesses in cities like Johannesburg and Pretoria. At least 5 people have been killed and police have arrested hundreds of suspects. The African Union has condemned it as a despicable act. President Cyril Ramaphosa says xenophobic attacks will not be tolerated and are totally unacceptable. But some South Africans blame foreigners for the lack of jobs and economic opportunities. Several African nations have advised their citizens to exercise caution while in South Africa. We'll bring in our guests in a moment, but first, this report from Haru Matase in Johannesburg.
Police in South Africa try again to stop rioting and looting in some poor neighborhoods in and around Johannesburg. It's been like this since Sunday. Some of the businesses and shops vandalized belong to foreign nationals. This is not the first time Mohammed Afzal Hussein has been through this. He says his other store in another part of the city was looted last year.
If it's every year something like this, how can I can make something for my families, for my children, for my parents is there. Because we have come from so far for work, not for a crime or whatever, only for work.
Some South Africans believe criminal gangs are responsible for the violence. Mario Abrunosa says he got a phone call early in the morning that his business was being looted, but it was too dangerous for him to move. Now that it's relatively quiet, he's come back to assess the damage.
I still found people still looting as I arrive here with the police presence. And all I wanted to say is it's not about a foreign shop. I'm a South African citizen. I employ South African people that work for me in the shop. And they targeted, it's just a pure criminality attack that they've done here to me. And I'm running at a loss. I'm without words. I don't know what else to say.
Some say the country's high unemployment rate, now nearly at 30%, widespread poverty and inequality are to blame for the violence. In 2008, at least 60 people were killed and more than 50,000 forced from their homes when many foreign African nationals were targeted. 4 years ago, at least 7 people were killed. Some South Africans feel they are competing with outsiders for scarce jobs. Human rights groups say anti-immigrant comments made by some politicians are making things worse.
There's a xenophobic sentiment underlying this about foreigners having to leave. We are a democracy. We are a democratic society. We can't allow people to take the law into their own hands. There is no country that doesn't have foreign nationals.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has condemned the attacks as xenophobic and unacceptable. More than 100 people have been arrested for public violence, arson and looting. But in some areas, the police seem overwhelmed, making it easy for some people to stay in the street. Harry Matasa, Al Jazeera, Johannesburg.
Well, let's introduce our panel now. Joining us from Johannesburg, Dakota Lekwete, the national spokesman for the governing ANC party. In Durban, we have Daniel Dunya, provincial coordinator for the campaign group Right to Know. And also joining us from Johannesburg, academic Roshan Dadu. She is the former director for the Consortium for Refugees and Migrants in South Africa. Good to have you all with us. Mr. Lekwete, let me start with you then. Beyond the statements of condemnation from President Ramaphosa, what does the government plan to do to stop attacks like this happening again? Because this isn't the first time, of course, that we've seen waves of violence like this against foreigners in South Africa.
No, thank you very much, and to all the viewers at home. Look, as the African National Congress, we would want to reiterate the position that was stated by our president, that we condemn this particular criminal act with all the strongest terms, and we see it as a despicable posture that can be done by any nation against its own people. And we want to put things into context. You know, when this whole matter started, it was last week when it started in Sunnyside, wherein a taxi operator wanted to do what we call a citizen arrest to a Nigerian who was selling drugs, and that Nigerian shot that taxi operator, and it gave rise to all the problems that we have. It is a matter that started from a genuine case of fighting drug peddling, but it turned ugly, and now it has been hijacked by opportunists and criminals who are going around looting shops, particularly shops which belong to foreign nationals. As the African National Congress, we have made it very clear to all our deployees in government that the police must act, all security agencies must act, and where possible, all criminal elements must be arrested so that we ensure that there is stability. But equally, we want to place it very clear that we would not encourage anyone from anywhere, any part of the world, to come to our country, destabilize and undermine our sovereignty to an extent even of wanting to wipe off the next generation through drugs or through illegal or illicit substance or wrong actions which are in conflict with the laws and the rule of law in our country. And we do this with the careful consideration that we would want to encourage our Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Relations to engage all ambassadors, including all ministers in the region, in the SADC region, including in the AU, to try to speak to this particular matter of the challenge of drugs, of the challenge of relations amongst nations, and the issue of mutual respect amongst nations, so that we do not have a repeat of this particular matter, but we deal with it once and for all, because it's a matter that cannot be left unattended. Because if it's left unattended, it means people will have to take the law into their own hands, and it's something that we cannot encourage. And we want to put it categorically clear to all South Africans that we would not want anybody to take the law into their own hands, allow the police and all criminal investigations to be done on this particular matter so that we find an amicable solution.
When you talk about not wanting to see people take the law, take matters into their own hands, when you have public officials in South Africa, like the health minister, for example, talking about foreign migrants being a strain on services and other officials making statements similar to this, what message does that send to those who want to carry out these attacks, who may have been just waiting for a chance, like waiting for a chance like this and just would do it for their own reasons.
Look, whatever that was said by those officials, it does not represent our position as a party. We find our existence in terms of an African nationalist movement with an ideological outlook of an African nationalism, which is based on a principle of Ubuntu. One of the things promoted by Ubuntu is humaneness, it's humility, and being humble. So mutual cooperation amongst nations, it's something that we have embraced as the ANC even since our formation in 1912. Our historical mission was about the unity of Africans, and something that we still pursue today. Our existence was on the issue of humanity, and that's why today, anywhere else in the world, even in the continent where there's human rights abuse, we are the champions as the African National Congress. These particular acts which are happening in our country today, they are despicable. We cannot encourage them, be it from our own nationals or foreign nationals, because some of them must also assist us, because they've helped to exacerbate the situation to be out of control.
How have foreign nationals exacerbated the situation in your view?
Look, I mean, if somebody comes to your country as an asylum and later becomes a drug dealer, it's a problem. And it cannot be encouraged. And that's why some of these criminal elements went to an extent even to attack everybody, because they want to use that as a justification or as a reason. And it's wrong. We cannot encourage it. And that's why we would also want everybody to cooperate so that we all respect our law enforcement agencies to ensure that at the end of the day we find an amicable solution. And that's why even from us as the ANC, we would want to pursue a Minister of International Relations to engage all affected nations and countries and whose citizens are in our country, so that even the ambassadors are properly informed of all the steps that we are doing as a nation, of all the interventions we are doing, because we cannot encourage an African on African attack, a black on black violence, or any form of violence against any human being. It's wrong. It's un-African. It does not represent the principles of Ubuntu. Because you know, I mean, we have been advanced as Africans to accept everybody in the globe to be within our shores. And it has been very normal. It has never been something difficult, which some, even in Europe, Asia, and elsewhere in the world, they are still struggling today to accommodate other fellow human beings.
Daniel Dunya, what do you think is behind this latest wave of attacks on foreigners in South Africa?
We believe that this is the state complicity on the attack of migrants in South Africa. In the past few days, we had statements from the officials, from the state officials, the Deputy Minister of Police, the Minister of Police, the Minister of Health. All these people were giving the people the order to attack migrants. And migrants have been attacked for quite a while, and they were silent. After people's shops have been looted, people abandoned, now they are coming with statements which are not assisting anything. Since 2008, migrants in this country have been attacked, and the state is quiet. They don't have any plan to mitigate the issue of xenophobia. 2015, people were killed, only statements on TV and on radio, and nothing is being done to address the underlying cause of xenophobia. That's why we are saying state is complicit on these issues, because they don't have any plan to address it. It's not the first time this thing is happening.
Roshan Dadu, what do you believe is the underlying cause of this? I mean, we hear a lot of talk about the poor economic situation in South Africa right now, the lack of jobs and so on. But is it all about that, or is there more to it than that?
Well, I think it's a number of things. Of course, it's the socioeconomic conditions, the high unemployment rate, the extreme inequality within our country, as well as abject poverty. But it's also the government's lack of service delivery, and that's both at municipal level, and Joburg, where the violence has been mostly the last few days, is a Democratic Alliance-run municipality, as well as ANC municipalities and at national level. I think it's also important to mention that we are still a divided society. The legacy of apartheid still haunts the way we other each other. And therefore, it's a kind of a right breeding ground for othering others from outside of our borders. And I think we have to mention here corruption. I mean, the 9 years of Zuma's rule has seen billions taken from state coffers, which adds to the lack of service delivery, stolen not by foreign nationals coming across our borders, stolen by our own elected politicians. And we have to raise that issue up as one of the aspects that causes dissatisfaction amongst our communities. And what a recent study from the African Center for Migration and Society was arguing was that mobilization is the vital connective tissue between the discontent and xenophobic violence. And I think these acts of violence that we've seen in the last few days have been mobilized. It's not just some random sporadic incident. In fact, the description that the ANC spokesperson gave of the incident was not what was initially reported, where it was said that the taxi drivers were also angry at the police for colluding with drug dealers, and the nationality of the drug dealer isn't really important. Drugs are a problem in our society. But to equate that with foreign nationals is one of the ways in which politicians whip up an anti-foreign sentiment. Of course, we don't want to see the kind of drug abuse that we have in our society and the problems it causes. But we could throw out every single foreigner tomorrow, and I'm telling you, we'd still have the same drug problem. It's not because of the foreigners. And making those kind of connections, then everyone starts to think, oh my goodness, foreigners, drugs, yes, the two are connected. So I think it's a whole bunch of reasons that causes discontent, which then through mobilization at local level, through local political actions, but also at national level, as has been said by the previous speaker, the statements of ministers who should know better, of ANC people, like the spokesperson, that are continuing to equate foreigners with other problems that are problems the government should be dealing with. You know, I think that whole combination of things causes people to move from being just simply discontented to finding a target, and an easy target is foreign nationals in communities.
Let's put some of that back then to Dakota Lehuete. Dakota Lehuete, what do you say then to this, to some of that, and this view as well that the government itself has contributed to the conditions that have led many people in South Africa to conduct attacks like this on foreigners in the country?
Yes, look, as the ANC, we want once more to reiterate that government officials or ministers who speak what does not represent the party, they does not represent us. You would know in all challenges that we have within the human nature, part of them are by reckless leaders. And I think we want to condemn, as the ANC, those leaders who have been speaking off the line, which has led to the situation getting out of control. We would not want to encourage any leader nor government official to speak something that does not represent our foreign policy and our resolutions as a party that is governing the country. It is wrong. Let us allow the law to take its course. Let's allow the law enforcement agencies to ensure that those who are responsible perpetrators, they are brought to book, because this particular matter, it has now been turned into something criminal, because even businesses belonging to South Africans have been looted, and it is wrong. People, both for South Africans and for foreign nationals, is wrong. We need to emphasize this. And this has disrupted the normal life of South Africans, because there's, in other areas, there are no schoolings, there are no business, even garages can operate to put up gasoline. So everybody's car is stopped, shops have stopped, there's no bread and milk and basic amenities that you need to run your daily life. And I don't think it's something that as a governing party would want to encourage.
Roshan Dadu, is it also an issue of the government simply not having the resources to tackle this problem?
Well, I think it's it's a lack of resources to deliver services and to deal with corruption within services like the police. For sure, that's one of the issues that government needs to address, because it's easy for political parties to blame foreigners for problems that they are not addressing themselves. I mean, there were billions looted from government coffers by government ministers, by South Africans, that ought to have been used to put into exactly both law enforcement, decent housing, the healthcare service, and implementing the national health service that's supposed to be starting, education, building schools that don't even have infrastructure, all of the things that people are wanting and needing, basic things for people to live a normal life.
But are you worried about the image that this now presents of South Africa to the rest of the continent? We have the African Union condemning this in very strong terms. The Nigerian government is summoned the South Africa's High Commissioner to Nigeria over this. We have reports that the Zambian Football Association has cancelled a match against South Africa over this. Does South Africa risk becoming an international pariah in the continent if it doesn't take real action against this?
Yes, indeed, we must admit that these recent developments are sending a very negative message about brand South Africa. Secondly, is that they are creating an unnecessary diplomatic embarrassment for us as a nation.
We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you to all three of you, Dakota Lekwete, Daniel Dunya, and Roshan Dadu. Thanks very much for being on Inside Story. From me, Hazem Sika, and the whole team here in Doha. Bye for now.